All right, welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're literally throwing the traditional agenda right out the window because we need to immediately dive into this massive cultural shift that's happening right now. We're looking at a completely fascinating phenomenon unfolding across digital media. It's the story of how complete outsiders are taking their everyday awkwardness, their mundane jobs, their internal anxieties, and transforming them into absolute entertainment empires. So if you've ever felt a little out of place, well, this explainer is going to show you exactly how that feeling is actually a blueprint for success.
So can existential dread actually be fun? I mean, seriously, I want you to think about this for a second. Have you ever found yourself laughing at your own deepest anxieties? Or maybe finding weird comfort in sharing a completely dreadful, super embarrassing story with a friend? It sounds completely counterintuitive, right? But what if I told you that harnessing that exact feeling, that messy mix of humor and dread, is actually the secret engine driving billions of views on the internet today?
Take a look at this quote. When everyone else asked how high, we asked why. From early on, we didn't fit in. We wanted to be in, but eventually we became comfortable at the edge. Man, that really hits the nail on the head. That captures what we call the outsider superpower. Because when you're on the fringe, when you're looking at the mainstream from the outside in, you actually gain a tremendous amount of clarity. You aren't bound by all those traditional rules. You don't have to fit into some neat corporate television format. Being comfortable at the edge gives you the ultimate creative freedom to just completely redefine the norm. And as you'll see, we're watching this play out in real time across a couple of major digital formats.
Section 1. The video essay phenomenon, the scale of the niche.
Okay, before we look at creators who are literally drawing out their own lives, we really need to understand the audience's appetite for deep, obsessive dives. Everyday people with something to say are building massive audiences by producing these highly cinematic, heavily researched videos about incredibly specific topics. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer scale of these runtimes. I mean, look at this. We have Defunctland creating a 1 hour and 42-minute documentary just about Disney's FastPass. We have Jenny Nicholson holding millions of viewers captive for over 2.5 hours dissecting the Vampire Diaries, and Quentin Reviews a whopping 5 hours and 34 minutes analyzing the failure of Victorious. That's practically 3 movies. These creators are taking incredibly niche, sometimes honestly seemingly boring topics and turning them into wildly popular, feature-length events. It just goes to show, the audience doesn't just want a quick laugh anymore. They want a fully immersive journey guided by a passionate outsider.
But here's the pivot. While video essayists use their outsider perspective to do deep dives into external topics, things like teen dystopias or amusement park lines, there's this whole other genre of creators turning that exact same intense focus completely inward. They're deep diving into personal life stories, the childhood embarrassments, the everyday mundane jobs, the terribly awkward social interactions. They aren't analyzing a TV show, they are analyzing themselves.
Section 2. Rise of Storytime Animation, drawing your own awkward life.
This is exactly where the most mundane aspects of life are spun into universal, incredibly relatable entertainment, drawn out frame by frame. Storytime animation is basically a style of short video where the creator places themselves directly as the main character of their own narrative. A fantastic example from our sources is Rebecca Parham from Let Me Explain Studios. She uses this format to boil stories down to their absolute barest elements. She takes something like a highly personal drama club memory and makes it feel completely universal to millions of viewers. She draws her own awkward life, and in return, the audience feels totally seen.
Section 3. When existential dread is fun, finding the humor in the dark.
But what happens when these internal stories aren't just about a funny drama club mishap or like a bad day at work? What happens when creators tackle the heavy stuff? Well, this brings us to a brilliant example aptly titled Life is Fun. It's this ironically upbeat musical collaboration between the Storytime animator The Odd Ones Out and the musician Boy in a Band. And the absolute brilliance here is the thematic juxtaposition. They took this incredibly heavy, super dark subject of existential dread and packaged it into a relentlessly catchy, upbeat, and fun animated music video. It's amazing because it shows how using humor and bright visuals to process really dark feelings can resonate so deeply, to the point where it became one of the most popular creations in the entire animation genre.
Section 4. From Doodles to Empires, the Odd Ones Out case study.
Okay, let's dive into this. Let's trace the journey of the ultimate digital underdog, James Rallison, better known as The Odd Ones Out. Back in 2012, as a 16-year-old, James was really struggling with a simple webcomic. But in 2014, he pushed through a total lack of motivation by making a crucial pivot to YouTube. To save time, he streamlined his storytelling into these really basic marshmallow people, so he could focus purely on the narrative itself. Fast forward to 2018, he drops that massive hit track, Life is Fun. And by 2022, this former struggling webcomic artist debuts a fully serialized, executive-produced animated series called Oddballs right on Netflix.
5,820 million. That is his total view count. Let that sink in. 5 billion. And what's wonderfully ironic about this whole thing is that James initially went to college with the dream of becoming a math teacher, but he dropped out just a semester and a half in to make videos full-time. So it turns out, dropping out of college to draw little marshmallow bubble people was actually the greatest math equation his aspiring math teacher ever solved.
And honestly, the sheer scale of the empire he built off these simple, mundane stories is just staggering. We're talking over 20.8 million YouTube subscribers, 2 New York Times best-selling books, a physical board game called Can't Catch Harry, a mobile game called Let's Bounce, and of course, the whole Oddballs animated series on Netflix. And remember, he built all of this largely by telling stories about his childhood, his mom's punishments, and literally just working at a local sandwich shop. It proves, without a shadow of a doubt, that the traditional barriers to entry in mainstream media are practically gone.
Section 5. The Blueprint for Creators. Your story has value.
So, what does this all mean for you? Well, consider this number, $200,000. During his massive rise to fame, James won a high-stakes YouTuber battle royale, and his share of the prize was a cool $200,000. But he didn't keep it. He donated every single penny of it to Team Trees. And this anecdote is absolutely vital, because it shows that even as he transitioned to mainstream television and achieved this massive, mind-blowing success, he never lost touch with the collaborative internet community that built him in the first place. He stayed completely authentic to his roots.
Look, we all have awkward moments, right? We all have mundane jobs, weird observations about life, and yes, even those heavy moments of existential dread. But if a teenager working at a sandwich shop can harness those exact feelings, draw them out as simple marshmallow doodles, and build a global, multi-million-dollar empire from it, what is stopping you? Your everyday story has immense value, and sometimes the simplest, most honest way of telling your own awkward truth is exactly what the rest of the world is desperately waiting to see. Because, hey, life is fun. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.